Recap with your host, Mr. Fleischauer. We're going to talk about some things we talked about throughout the course of the week, mainly dealing with your papers. So first, let's start with thesis. Obviously, we know that thesis is counterargument plus stance, claim 1, claim 2, in that order. We're past that. You guys are really good at that. We want to move on now to evidence. What constitutes good evidence? Well, you're going to need to look at your thesis. Questions you might want to ask yourself while you are coming up with evidence. What do you need to prove? Big question. Does it go back to your thesis? Secondly, what type of evidence might prove your claim? For the book, most importantly, what examples might you need to find in order to have good evidence? And third, most important, is does this evidence physically prove your claim? If it doesn't prove your claim, then you might want to find evidence. When you ask yourself that question, and if the answer is no, you need to find better evidence. Now, for areas where you need to be focused on, kind of like what we did in class. 3 things. Conversations between Huck and Jim are going to be very important. Also, when Huck contemplates his relationship with Jim, where does he struggle with how he sees him as a slave versus how he sees him as a person? And last but not least, when Jim does outlandish things so that he does not get caught by other white males in the South. Let's think the sickly Arab thing. And then additionally, when people are being racist in the book, such as Pap. The Pap evidence is going to be real strong for your counter-argument. Use that.
All right, guys, this is Mr. Zidron. I'm joining Mr. Fleischauer this week for the weekly recap. What I'm going to talk to you about today is your main ideas, which are your claims from your thesis, as well as finding the real-world evidence. So the first thing I want to talk about is making those claims. So your claims in your thesis statement need to be something that's broad enough that you can prove it with evidence from the book, like Mr. Fleischauer was talking about, and also from the real world. The thing to remember about claims in your thesis statement is they then become your main ideas. So when you're looking at a Mel L. Khan paragraph, your first sentence should be one of your claims from your thesis statement. What you want to do with those main ideas is keep it broad. You want a general statement about something that you can prove with both the evidence from the book and the evidence from the real world. For instance, if we're talking about this particular paper, you want to say Huck Finn is not a racist novel because it shows one race being sympathetic towards another. Instead of being plot driven and saying Huck Finn is not a racist novel because it shows the character of Huckleberry Finn being sympathetic towards the character of Jim. You want to eliminate that part with the plot and get right to this bigger idea of races being sympathetic towards each other. The reason you want to do this is so that your evidence for both your book and your real world connects to your main idea. Mr. Fleischauer just spoke of finding the evidence in the book. Now what you need to do is find real world evidence that goes along with the evidence from the book. We've done this before with our ACT writing. You guys did a really good job of brainstorming and coming up with that evidence from nowhere, because that's essentially what it is. It's you guys coming up with it. So what you need to do is that again, only for this particular main idea or claim. The beauty of this, as opposed to what you did before, is you have longer than the 45 minutes timed right session to do it. So what you need to think about is times when your general idea, say it was one race is sympathetic towards another, have happened recently or happened throughout time. So if I were to do that claim, and have Mr. Fleischauer's evidence from the book. I would then include my own evidence where I can think of something where a time where one race has been sympathetic towards another. In one of my classes today, we spoke of how during the Ferguson riots, there weren't just African Americans, there were also white people who were helping out and protesting and trying to get that point across. So those are the kind of real world evidence you need to think about. So to recap, your main idea is what is in your thesis statement, your claim. It needs to be general, it needs to be broad, because you need the evidence from the book to prove it, and you need the real world evidence to prove it. This is such a sweet room.